Yesterday, Nigerians woke up to the good news that the world's digital infrastructure company, Equinix, was in the process of acquiring MainOne, a West African data center and connectivity solutions provider, at an enterprise valuation of $320 million. The deal, which is expected to be closed by the first quarter of 2022, will add more than 64,000 gross square feet of space to Platform Equinix, with 570,000 square feet of land for future expansions. MainOne owns and operates a 7,000-kilometer subsea network from Nigeria to Portugal, as well as 1,200 kilometers of reliable terrestrial fiber network across southern Nigeria. The company's digital assets have helped connectivity to and from Europe, West African countries, and the major business communities in Nigeria. When completed, the acquisition will extend Platform Equinix into West Africa, giving organizations based inside and outside Africa access to one of the world's fastest growing markets. Now joining us to throw more light on the $320 million deal and the value proposition for both parties and other stakeholders are Funke Opeke, CEO of MainOne, who will be staying on as Chief Executive of Platform Equinix after the transaction is closed. And joining us from Amsterdam is Judith Gardiner, Vice President, Growing and Emerging Markets at Equinix. Good morning, Funke and Judith, and thank you for joining us. Well, quickly, let me start with you, Mrs. Opeke, first by congratulating MainOne and also Equinix for this major deal that will pave the path for one of the world's foremost digital infrastructure companies to expand its operations and gain a footprint on the African continent. But beyond the mutual benefits that this transaction is likely to offer both companies, that is Equinix and MainOne, what is the value proposition in this acquisition for Nigeria, the country's business environment, and Africa as a whole?
Thank you very much, and good morning. And indeed, it is great to see the world's leading digital platform enter into Africa through MainOne. Now, what does that mean, and what is the value proposition for Nigeria? If we look at the ICT space today, it is largely driven by global platforms, and people talk about platforms are really key. There are few global technologies or technology companies that we're all keying into, and to be part of the digital economy, you need to figure out how you participate and how you get some of that value chain into your economy. Nigeria has been largely consumers of technology. By building infrastructure here, we're able to deliver more of that value chain here in Nigeria. MainOne started down that journey of building our own local infrastructure, being able to house content locally, being able to transport content in our markets 11 years ago. Now, the world's global platform is saying, we want you to be a part of our global platform. So rather than being that niche player, we were not on the map. Nigeria was not on the map. I mean, now you have all the global giants having a presence in Nigeria. Microsoft is in Nigeria, Google is in Nigeria, Facebook is in Nigeria. All these global players, Amazon, are taking interest because they want to participate here. By having this platform, we're bringing more of the value chain. Other than they just transmitting information, we're able to actually service their requirements out of here by Nigerians and still be a part of that global platform. And Equinix brings investment, it brings know-how, it brings relationship with all these global companies, and as well as technology that becomes available not just to global companies coming in, but to local companies who want access to world-class technologies that they have and that they're using to service advanced markets now locally available in Nigeria. And I think that's a value proposition for Nigerians.
Great. Well, I'll ask you, Judith, The press statement on this acquisition indicated that Equinix intends to acquire MainOne and its assets with an all-cash transaction at the enterprise value of $320 million, which is expected to be AFFO accretive upon close, excluding integration costs. For the purpose of our viewers, could you explain what that means in layman's terms?
So essentially, we are, as you said, buying MainOne for $320 million in cash. And the AFO accretive means that it's going to be valuable to our earnings per share as soon as the deal closes.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Judith. The statement also disclosed that you will be staying on as CEO. I'm talking to you now, Funke Opeke. However, we'd like to know how this cash injection is expected to alter the current shareholding structure of the company. You know, will Equinix have the controlling stake? And what will happen to your stakeholders and other founding shareholders, you know, such as the likes of Fola Adeola, Main Street Technologies, AFC, and some other people that have put in the patient capital, like we said, over these years?
Well, indeed, I am founder, visionary CEO. But the shareholders and the owners, the current owners of MainOne, are the institutions that actually wrote the checks to make that initial investment 12 years ago. Those are the African Finance Corporation, Pan-African Infrastructure Development Fund, FBN Quest, Polaris Bank, and Main Street Technologies, which is a platform chaired by Mr. Fola Adeola and other investors in the Nigerian business community who made the seed investment to enable me realize the vision of MainOne. Now, those shareholders have worked with us patiently. They worked in the governance and the board of the company for the past 12 years as we've nurtured the business to profitability, which is why Judith says we will not be diluting the earnings when they combine our results with Equinix, because we are a profitable entity. So, but those institutions, as we all know, are financial institutions. They make investments so they can get a financial return, and they're not in the business of running technology companies. Having nurtured this business to the point where it is profitable, they are able to take an exit. They're handing it off to a strategic player, the number one strategic player globally, who's able to take the company to the next level as part of its platform. So yes, indeed, our shareholders are exiting. They are smiling to the bank, and the company will continue to grow under the ownership and governance structure set up by Equinix. So MainOne becomes a part of Platform Equinix, and I will run MainOne, continue to run MainOne as a part of that global platform.
Okay, Judith, this question is for you. Other than the $320 million Equinix is bringing to the table to acquire MainOne, what additional investments will the company be bringing to roll out its digital infrastructure in Nigeria?
So we would expect over the next couple of months that as part of the close process, we will be setting up our business plan. We do see a lot of demand coming from our customers internationally, so we would expect to be putting a lot of emphasis on expansion growth over the next 12 to 18 months. And what's great about MainOne is they have so much land already secured for almost another 10 data centers. So depending on the amount of demand we get from our cloud service providers, our network service providers, financial customers, content and digital media customers, I expect to see a great surge in demand over the next time, once after we close.
Well, thanks, Judith. And speaking of land, you said yesterday that Equinix intends to acquire additional land, possibly to build another 10 data centers. Will all these new data centers be located in Nigeria or dispersed across the West African region where MainOne currently provides connectivity?
Well, MainOne already have the land, actually, so we don't need to acquire more. But we would expect that the largest market will be Nigeria, but of course, MainOne also have a presence in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and we will be looking to expand in those markets also.
All right. So, given the attractiveness, of Africa for digital infrastructure companies, there have been few new entrants such as African Data Center that have been rolling out data center services in Nigeria. What will Equinix do differently to retain and increase, market share in this segment? How bullish would you guys be on the African continent?
So we've had an ambition for quite some time to enter the African market, and our corporate development team are always looking at targets. And when we looked at West Africa and the fact that Nigeria has surpassed South Africa in terms of being the largest economy, we felt that this was our best step forward into entering the Africa continent. We believe that based on the size of the African continent, that there will be many hubs that will be required to serve the digital infrastructure that's required. And what differentiates Equinix from the other players is really that we are a digital infrastructure platform. We're not just a data center company. We have 237 data centers across the globe. We have in 65 cities and in 27 countries, and happy to say that we're now going to be in 30 countries. And all of those data centers are connected. And that's why we say we serve a platform. So we're not just providing data center space, we're actually providing digital infrastructure that can connect across the globe for our international customers. We have about 10,000 customers, 50% of them are Fortune 500, and most of them are located in each of those regions where we have data centers.
Well, the next question is for you, Mrs. Opeke, but before we take that, let's take a short break. And after that break, the conversation will continue. Stay with us. We still have Judith Gardiner and Mrs. Funke Opeke of MainOne with us in the studio here at the Arise News channel. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, still with us in the studio, we have Funke Opeke, Chief Executive Officer of MainOne, and also Judith Gardiner, Vice President, Governing and Emerging Markets, Equinix. And we're talking about this big acquisition between Equinix and MainOne, with Mrs. Funke Opeke still staying on as Chief Executive Officer of MainOne. Well, let me come back to you. How will this acquisition help to facilitate the 5G rollout in Nigeria by next year, which is something that the Nigerian authorities have been talking about? We're going to have a mock auction and a proper auction and all of that. But how does this, play to the advantage of that plan by the Nigerian authorities?
Okay. Actually, the digital infrastructure that MainOne has, but I think with additional new investments, is actually part of the building blocks that we're seeing for 5G in advanced markets in the world. One is 5G is a low latency technology, so you need the electronics, the intelligence of the network and the routing close to where the users or the consumers are. And by bringing and building out this digital infrastructure in country, we actually start providing the platforms for 5G. The other thing about 5G is a lot of the deployment is cloud-based. And so you need data centers of the kind we're building and the fast fiber networks, interconnections that we have to actually support the radio access networks that the mobile operators will be deploying for 5G. So again, this digital infrastructure is critical to 5G deployment, and we've seen this in other parts of the world And that is part of what we expect we will be growing here. Already, we have significant relationships working with the leading operators in the region, and we expect that will only continue to grow as they move in this new direction.
Well, broadband access is currently limited to the coastal areas of the country. How do you intend to facilitate transmission to the hinterlands?
Well, one of the things about MainOne, and I think in Mr. Abati's introduction, he really captured that right, is MainOne has not been a last mile provider. Our market's last mile is primarily mobile, and mobile broadband is how the majority of us access the internet today. So what we are seeing, and what Mr. Abati just discussed, is the role of 4G, 5G, which the operators, it's good to see that the leading operators are indeed participating in the ongoing 5G auction process, will be the preferred technologies, to be honest, to continue to extend services to the hinterlands of Nigeria. What we do and what we've done is really focus on connecting and serving aggregation points, where all those networks come together, where all the data comes together, interconnecting that between major cities and large consumers, enterprises or institutions that require direct access to such facilities. And that's how, in some end, we're the back end of that retail enterprise that will take the last mile connections to the end users.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about the issue of connectivity speed that is also linked to the issue of penetration, broadband penetration. I mean, the numbers have gotten better over the years. With Equinix coming on board, how will that help? With that broadband penetration conversation. I know it's not solely a thing for MainOne to do. There must be some other infrastructures being built, but let's just talk around various literature on ground and how we can proliferate broadband penetration.
We're on two sides of the coin, actually, because we have connectivity and we also have data centers. Part of enabling broadband is enabling access to data, enabling local digital companies to operate effectively, and for local consumers to be able, or global customers to be able to access those platforms. By becoming a part of Platform Equinix and building out, we're able to bring more content closer to the eyeballs in our region. In addition, we're able to provide the platform for digital players or digital economy players, be it in the financial sector or the e-commerce sector. We see the growth we're seeing in fintechs to provide services, not just in Nigeria, from Nigeria, but also from Nigeria, using this global platform that we'll now be a part of all across the globe. So that's really, again, it's a plumbing, it's interconnection, it's getting the data and the connections closer through our data centers and edge nodes that we will deploy closer to the eyeballs and the retail operators, then focusing on the last mile, which they continue to invest in to make services better.
Okay, let's talk about this big problem of right-of-way, which has remained a challenge for most telecom operators in Nigeria, because most state governments charge arbitrarily for right-of-way. There are also community issues. Now, how have you been addressing this challenge, and how do you intend to address this challenge, which may even get more serious as the company gets bigger, more international?
I think the right-of-way question is one that I would want to sidestep. I think the NCC with InfraCos is working on that across the country and engaging state governments in terms of right-of-way. But for MainOne also, we do not feel we are the only ones who can build that infrastructure. There are multiple players. I mean, we own 1,200 kilometers of fiber. The major network operators, the mobile companies, own more fiber than we do. So it is a collective issue for the industry that everyone continues to work on. And we continue to see opportunity, especially at the core, again, where we are building, to continue to build out our infrastructure, data centers, networks. We also have regional connectivity, so that's not really getting into the last mile. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. How well is Nigeria connected to Ghana? How well is Nigeria connected to Cote d'Ivoire? How well is Cote d'Ivoire connected to Ghana, to Burkina Faso, and other parts of the West African region, to promote that regional cohesion within ECOWAS? So that's really more of our space. And yes, the last mile remains challenging in Nigeria for all operators. And we hope that with all the efforts being made by the NCC, that will indeed get better over time, and we'll have more networks built.
Right. My question is for Judith. Speaking of that cohesion Mrs. Opeke just referred to, beyond Nigeria, what is the company's expansion plan to other countries on the continent?
Well, we called out, back in July, we called out 4 countries: South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. So as I mentioned, we hit 2 countries with this acquisition, which is fantastic, and we're so excited about it. So this will be really about focusing in on seeing the acceleration and making this a success. But we are also looking at, obviously, at South Africa and East Africa also.
Right. Oh, that's great. So you're looking at East Africa, looking at some other potential on the African continent. I just want to also ask, what does Equinix have to offer its customers all over the world and its African customers that they will be having soon with this acquisition it's made, in terms of developmental strides through data, through technological appreciation? That's one. And after you answer that, then I've got another question here for Funke Opeke in the studio.
So most of our customers are leading in their own verticals and their own industries, and are all using our platform to run their businesses, to communicate with their customers, to sell to their customers. That's essentially what we offer. We offer the infrastructure that can provide that. We will be looking to have our international customers come into Africa, but of course we will be looking at facilitating African multinationals or becoming multinationals to use our platform to be able to, sell across the world. So it's a very simple concept. We connect all our data centers so that data can flow in a very, very low latency way and give the best experience to their customers around the globe. We expect after this transaction is closed that content delivery will be accelerated significantly in West Africa. Also, by the service excellence that we provide, coupled with MainOne, we expect to also see enterprises in Africa using our services, but also other service providers coming into the market to use our platform to also sell and facilitate and essentially just to drive acceleration in the digital transformation that is already present, but really accelerate that to bring it up to the same level of other regions around the world.
Thanks so much. I wanted to ask you, flexibility in terms of doing business across the African subcontinent, as it were, across West Africa, because there are variations even in the legal system with Nigeria and Francophone Africa like Abidjan. I mean, what has been the experience like, and how do you think the AFCTA can open an ecosystem of direct interaction that bridges this gap?
Well, as you say, different countries, different regulations. But what we found is the region, everywhere we've done business, has actually been quite welcoming. The nature of what we do is developmental. All the countries in our region want to grow their digital economy. We are bringing investment. Equinix allows us to bring more investment. So truly, we have been able to navigate. We have indigents working and leading our businesses in all the countries, and the best of the talent. And the governments recognize what it is we are trying to do, and I think we've had very good cooperation across the region. Different sets of regulations, but generally we work to understand and comply and build within that context, and we're bringing investment, and we've been very well received.
Well, we need to take a short break now. Funke Opeke and Judith Gardiner. When we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. The merger of MainOne and Equinix. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us, we have Funke Opeke, Chief Executive Officer of MainOne Nigeria Limited, and Judith Gardiner, the Vice President of Growing and Emerging Markets, Equinix. And we've been discussing the planned acquisition of MainOne by Equinix. Well, let me come to you, Mrs. Opeke. This planned acquisition of the company that you started by Equinix must be very exciting. But what does it say about the potential for the digital space in Nigeria and the rest of Africa? I ask this because quite a few Nigerian startups, especially in the fintech space, have become unicorns by attracting investments from international venture capitalists and other firms.
I think this continues to say good things about the digital space and what we're able to achieve in Nigeria and how we're able to grow our economy. And for a lot of years, we've talked about diversifying from oil and how do we generate higher growth rates in our GDP. And what we're seeing, I think, from investments like this and from what we've seen in the fintech and the startup community is indeed that out of Nigeria, with the size of our population and the size of our economy, we are able to grow businesses that attract global attention, foreign direct investment of scale, and continue to drive value out of Nigeria. So I think it is a very positive story for Nigeria. It demonstrates that perhaps indeed the diversification of the economy, this is one clear area of opportunity where we can continue to attract investment and have participation and innovation, create more jobs for Nigerians, create opportunity, and of course, the founders of these companies, the startups, the fintechs, the software companies, the unicorns, it's a different asset class, but clearly they're doing very well, and we expect that they will continue to attract investment given the size of our market and the potential of our economy.
I think we certainly all hope so. But I have this question for both of you, Judith, and you, Funke. So I'll start with Judith. How did this acquisition come about? Can you tell us what attracted you to MainOne and how the wheels were set in motion?
So what attracted us to MainOne initially for me was the story of the vision of Funke, connecting West Africa to the rest of the world through the subsea cable. And as I started looking at MainOne, and we saw how the data center side of the business was also growing quite significantly, we realized that this was a great fit for us. And probably it stood out among any of the other companies that our team had identified. So I just contacted Funke and we started a conversation over email. And then within a couple of days, we were talking on Zoom. And then over a couple of more days, we were talking on WhatsApp. And it's kind of developed from there. And the interactions with Funke and her team, really from the very beginning, just felt like such a right fit that we accelerated the conversation and started our due diligence with the team. And really, it was difficult because normally in these situations, we would go to the country, we would meet the team. So everything has been done remotely. But it's been a really great experience. And what's also stood out for us is just the quality of the service that MainOne deliver. their customer base. We have about 15% of shared customers. And also our company values overlap quite significantly. So yeah, the stars aligned. That's how I would like to put it.
Over to you, Ms. Opeke. Was this part of your grand plan and acquisition on this level?
Our shareholders, who I mentioned are our financial shareholders, have been wanting to exit for some time. And of course, the exits, as we're seeing, as you mentioned, in the startup community, are private equity firms or the financial investors. Obviously, getting a strategic such as Equinix, who is a direct investor in this business and is bringing not just money, but know-how and customers, is a step up from that for a MainOne. And so when Judith reached out and we started the conversation, it was interesting because I think we were not really thinking the number one would be great, but we never thought that the number one global digital infrastructure company that did not have a presence in Africa, and so that local operating knowledge would want to enter the region on our platform. And so, but as the conversations progressed and that became more interesting, I think it was very interesting to the shareholders, who we have to know at the end of the day, it was the shareholders selling the company, their shares in the company to Equinix. They were equally pleased that they were not just selling to another financial investor, but to a very capable global leader that brought not just capital, but had good capital, but also know-how and customer to accelerate the growth of the business and deepen investment in West Africa beyond what they have been able to achieve. So I think everybody was pretty pleased with
and give it to MainOne, it was a very well-run company, to be able to attract, all of this goodwill it got from Equinix. But I want to ask, what does this, merger do for that long-held conversation of cloud residency and data residency?
It strengthens it. Equinix, and as you heard Judith say, it's about building more data centers here, that can serve global cloud service providers to bring that content here. So we're all using all these services today, all these global platforms, and majority of them are not served locally. We hope that with Equinix's presence here now through MainOne, all of our data, indeed increasing portions of our data, could now be domiciled locally, managed by our team across the region. And we think that's great for our economies and our businesses as well.
Right, Judith, the conversation about cloud residency and data residency in Africa with this partnership, does it mean that Equinix will help bolster that? And like you said, the expansion plan over the next 18 to 21 months, are we looking at other big climbs? There are quite a lot of big cities in Africa. The Congolese capital, Kinshasa, is one of them. Kinshasa is the largest French-speaking city in the world with 15 million people. That's another big battleground, across the African continent. Are we looking at that in part of this 18 to 21 month plan? Can you spill some of the plan for us, Judith?
Wow, we're good, but I'm not sure we're that fast. I think what we've learned as we've gone into new continents, essentially, is that we don't rush things. We need to go in with a very strong partner, which we have with MainOne, and then we need to learn. So we don't know it all. We have our expertise and we have our learnings from various other parts of the world, but really we're going to be very much partnering with Funke to focus on Nigeria, West Africa, and really make that a success and then figure out where we go to next. But if we move too fast, we'll make mistakes.
Okay, Judith, quickly, I would like to ask you, how long did it take to arrive at this point? And what are the main considerations? And I'm trying to vary a question asked earlier by Tundun here. And then, do you have any concerns, any anxieties about the Nigerian business environment from the due diligence that you carried out?
So it's taken probably about 6 months from when we started looking at MainOne to where we are now. So it's been a very efficient process. Have we any concerns? I think whenever we enter a new territory, we're always cautious. And again, this really comes back to researching what we're doing, researching the market, finding the right partner. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is. Just the legacy that MainOne has, the vision that the company was built on, the values that they run their business according to for both their customers and their employees. So really having that trusted partner is essential. So, I think it's yes, it could be a challenging market, but it's been challenging for MainOne, and look where they've got. So, it comes back to we're going to be hand in hand with Funke and her team. They're going to be helping us figure this out. We're going to bring the capital and know-how. And I think the combination of the two should help us overcome whatever challenges we face.
And what are those challenges that you face? Let's end on that note as we round up. What are the challenges that you feel that you need to surmount?
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Funke.
No, go ahead, Judith.
But I suppose the obvious ones from our initial, should we go into West Africa? Should we go into Nigeria? The currency is always something that we have had a challenge with, also in other markets, and we've figured it out. We have a fantastic treasury team, but also we look to the leadership in the company that we're partnering with. I think it's also an emerging market, so there's still some laws and regulations that need to catch up with where we need to go on data sovereignty and on digital transformation. And we're probably going to see those accelerate because we see such demand for that locally in West Africa. But Funke, I'll hand over to you to finish this one off.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Of course, currency, weak economic growth. We'd like to see faster growth, acceleration of digital transformation, which will further drive demand and investment. I think those, and we'll talk about ease of doing business. But hopefully, as that gets better, providing digital infrastructure is also part of making that better and easier. But as Judith said, we've had to deal with those challenges, and we've been able to make a go at it. And we think with the additional capacity that Equinix brings, we'll be able to have even more impact.
Like they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And today will be noted as the day that step has started between Equinix and MainOne. Thank you so much, Judith, for your time. Thank you so much, Funke, for your time as well.